Welcome to a Fat Monk bonus episode. A short take on things Daoist. Written by Xiaoyao Xingzhe and read by Nei Dan.
The Dao Chun's preface to the Dao De Yuán, the accord of the origin of the Dao and its power. The Dao Chun was a 13th century Daoist master in the line of the famous 4th-generation master of the southern Nei Dan lineage, Bai Yuchan. Li is author of the Zhōng Hé Jí, translated as the Book of Balance and Harmony by Thomas Cleary. What follows, which to my knowledge has not been previously translated, is the valuable preface and introduction to Li Dao Chun's Dao De Yuán, his commentary on Laozi's Dao De Jing. Preface. With humility, I venture to say that Fuxi's hexagrams of the I Ching reveal the primal heaven, while Laozi's writings all depict Dao and De. These are the ancestors of all the classics. Students today are unable to make out the principles in these two books. Why? Mainly because it has not been passed down to them. When I had not yet mastered the hexagrams, I traveled widely to try and meet people who had achieved, those who could ignite the opening of my heart and mind to the subtle changes, and which would allow me to make out the marvels of the I Ching. Thereafter, I exhausted everything obtained from these adepts in composing my Santian Yi Sui, the mutable marrow of the three heavens, for the instruction of my students. Yet Laozi's Dao De Jing remained incompletely investigated. One day, I was instructing my student Yuán, and he brought along a copy of Bai Yuchan's Dao De Baojiang, precious stanzas of the way and its power to show me. I saw that the annotations closely matched the meaning of the text, except for just a few rare places. I was about to make some comments at random, and then, on reflection, I did not dare. Later, 2 or 3 other students brought out annotations made by a number of experts and asked me about them. The first thing I did was compare the different versions of the classic itself, and found there were many discrepancies. An extra word here, a missed character there, sometimes even whole sentences would be mistaken, or 2 characters transposed. The versions were all at variance. Sighing, I said, if the classic itself is like this, how can one annotate it? The students asked me the reason for the differences, and I said, in the beginning it might have been a copyist mistake, or on printing they did not properly check the blocks. There, too, may have been places our predecessors were unable to understand, and so they randomly added or changed the text, mistake leading to mistake and ramifying like this. They said, who is right? I said, He Xianggong's Laozi Zhangju, Laozi chapter and verse, and Bai Yuchan's Dao De Baojiang, treasured chapters on Dao and De. They asked, why is that? I said, because the thread of meaning running through their writing is accurate. They said, what about the various annotators? I said, their perceptions are different. Each only grasps a part. They said, can you be more specific? I said, generally, they make their assessments from an idea of self, rather than letting it flow out from their own chests, and thus they cannot extend or broaden the meaning. If they approach it from a how to govern angle, they are stuck with it as a text about governing. If they approach it from an alchemical viewpoint, they are stuck with alchemy. If they think it is about martial arts, they're stuck with a book about the art of war. If they think it explains Zen subtleties, they are stuck with Zen subtleties. Some discuss principles but ignore practicalities. Others talk about practice but leave out principles. As for power, tactics and strategies, sidetracks and fruitless paths leading into deviance, all of these have lost the basic meaning intended by the sage. They should know that when a sage creates a classic, the original intention is established prior to heaven and earth. It comes to manifestation in yin and yang, and only then arrives in this world. It contains both practice and principles, without missing either. How can one grasp one side while discussing it? That's why I dare to speak indiscreetly, and one by one bring out for everyone those places where the explanations contradict the meaning of the classics as set out by the sages. All those present said, "Excellent." From then on, the people seeking assistance increased, and they would not allow me to keep silent. Therefore, I made annotations, sentence by sentence, to the rectified classic, explaining its meaning, demonstrating the importance of cultivating the spirit and nourishing qi. I also summed up the line of thought at the end of each chapter in order to clarify the fundamental and original sequence. Lastly, I composed a verse for each chapter, which showed the way to clarify the heart-mind and perceive essence. As for religious, political, moral, and daily use by the average person, including instructions on how to practice the way, generally and specifically, obvious and subtle, nothing has been omitted from it. At the front of the book, I placed a section clarifying terminology and a section investigating the rationale in order to eliminate doubts about similarities and differences in the classic. I called it Accord with the Origin of the Tao and Its Power, to help later students discover a rich understanding, entering in through the explanations and hopefully not falling into bias, enabling them to reach the Tao and return to the origin. The only problem with it is that the style is vulgar and is nothing but a straight explanation of the meaning of the classic. And even that, I do not dare say is correct. Nonetheless, this can draw the attention of my friends to a few areas of comparison between the various texts. Preface composed at dawn in early summer of the year 1290 by the student from Clear Hermitage in Hunan, Dao Master of the Shining Toad, Dao Chun, also known as Yuán.
Thank you for listening to the Fat Monk Podcast, produced by Ben Thomas with music by Flora Carbo. Please like and subscribe and go to the show notes for links and further content. If you'd like to become a material supporter of the podcast, click on the coffee button at the bottom of the show notes.